The Stuart and Sam show is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex.
It's essentially that they want to put a new bill through Parliament that says that they want to ban a lot of sex acts in porn. The article says that the Digital Economy Bill looks to ban anything that wouldn't be allowed on a commercially available DVD that seems
There's
to
loads available on commercially available DVDs, surely. I've been to Soho and I've been in some of their shops, and more disturbing than the DVDs are often the massive implements of sex, which presumably, right next to the DVDs, they'd still be selling.
A lot of the DVDs are obviously now accessible online, and I think online's going to be the biggest industry for porn, not DVDs
CD
anymore.
shops in Soho,
And
which are actually
physical.
not that seedy. They feel like kind of like Speedo shops, how they're lighted and stuff.
They want to limit adult content in a number of ways, banning things including female ejaculation, aka squirting, the sight of menstrual blood, period blood, from all pornographic videos.
I've never come across any menstrual blood in my porn watching days.
No, but I'm sure if people search hard enough on porn websites, they'll probably find it. Like,
If they're into
period blood porn, gross.
So, you know.
Well, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just thinking it's gross personally. And so with this whole idea that now there's also a rule that they might put in place to prevent recordings of people doing a four-finger act. So you can put 3 fingers in, or 2, or 1 in an orifice, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What about the mouth?
Well, I don't know, like maybe oral fisting is still allowed.
What about 4 toes?
Well, it just says 4 fingers here, so maybe
A letter of the law.
Yeah, well, footing is still allowed in many porn industries. You can still foot.
Yeah, we're just going to have to convert to footing.
Oh, okay. It does go on. It does go on.
Much more than one
the
big toe
4-finger
at
rule.
once.
The 4-finger rule, for instance, which limits the number of digits that can be played. I like how they say digits.
What if you don't
for
have
fingers.
digits? What if you just have a stump?
Well, that is amputee porn.
No, thalidomide. What were those people in the 70s who... Sorry for the offence. There's nothing wrong with, the people who were born with defects because of the drug that their mothers were made to take.
Okay, well, that's not amputee porn. That's, I guess...
Thalidomide or whatever it was. Porn.
Well, I was just going to say stump porn, because they do often endearingly call their stumps. I don't... What else would you call it if it's not stump? Just a nub.
Anyway, I'm not sure how we're going to...
Nubbin. So it does say that it limits the number of digits that can be placed into any orifice. So that does include oral fisting. Although I don't think I've ever seen...
But like, putting your 4
or
fingers
heard
in
of.
someone's mouth is quite... I can taste it.
Bulimia. Yeah, bulimic porn. And then the article goes on. This is from The Independent, by the way. The British Board of Film Classification gives a non-exhaustive list of all the things that will not be accepted in R18, which is the regulator's highest restriction, which I actually haven't heard of, R18. So there's 18, and then there's R18.
The R standing for?
Restricted,
okay.
Something like that. Something probably similar to the US. Randy, yeah. Randy 18s. There are a lot of Randy 18s.
There are a lot of
Randy 18-year-olds. And lower on higher. There's Randy people everywhere.
The world over.
And that's why I think that I disagree with what the Conservative
random
government...
South Park reference.
It's not South Park, it's Family Guy.
Oh, sorry.
Randy.
Oops.
This is why I disagree, because there are so many randy people with lots of different interests in porn that there shouldn't be a censorship on it, especially when it's porn anyway.
What might be the argument? What might actually be an argument? So let's have a think.
I think often the argument is, think of the children.
Okay, yeah, so, that's one. Is there a difference? Because this is what interests me. Is there a difference between porn and real life sex, such that it isn't cool to get off on all this sick shit when you're watching it over the internet where you don't have access to these people, but if you're actually committing it in real life, that's different somehow? If there is a distinction, then there could be space for a bit of argument on this front.
I remember there was an interview, we watched it on Chelsea on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
With the people that were addicted to porn, and they did say that they found a disconnect between actual sex and their porn viewing habits, but it had an adverse effect. Because
just explain who Chelsea is. It's a good programme.
Well, she's on Netflix and she's a talk show host.
Chelsea
Lately or Chelsea Handler. But she did Chelsea Lately before. She interviewed some people from... They had porn addictions and then they set up a kind of relief group.
Yeah, I somehow think sometimes thinking of it in terms of addiction is actually going to make your problem worse somehow. I think you're actually buying into the fact that this computer has all this control over you. You buy into that and it's actually definitely going to direct when you...
I don't think it's the computer. I think that they don't think that the computer has the control. It's that it's almost part of their brain is in control that they can't...
Well, that's what
control.
I mean. The computerized brain. The brain that has been subject to this foreign kind of object, this foreign means of accessing sex, which isn't the immediate kind of just grab another human next to you and,
If you don't give it a label, though, it still exists.
Well, that's what I'm questioning.
I think that it still exists, and I don't know. For some people, it certainly does help to give it a label because, especially with a label such as addiction, it's got a huge stigma attached to it, and then they feel like there could be a solution to their problem.
Yeah,
I believe that it shouldn't be ignored.
So the argument on that basis is that if you've got all this extreme porn out there, it's just feeding these addictions. Maybe if it was quite blasé and, kind of boring vanilla, then it'll just reflect real life sex maybe, and then it'll just encourage them to go get some real life sex.
I don't know.
Maybe that's the... Well, yeah, but if we're going to say that what they're saying is valid, I'm not sure that I want to buy into porn addiction. Clearly, people do get addicted to porn, but I don't think isolating the problem and saying that it's porn addiction specifically that's actually a problem. I think it's a far wider worldview that is separating them from reality. And I don't think that just saying that it's their separation from sexual reality. I think they need to be completely reintegrated into full reality, and then normal sex will make sense again. But just saying that it's just a porn-based problem or a sex-based problem, I don't agree with that. I think sex is part of life.
Well, I would agree. Obviously, I don't think that you just become addicted to porn without any sort of catalyst in your wider life.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my thing.
No, I would agree. That's not our main...
They're saying the porn... Yeah, no,
main
that's
discussion.
We could discuss that another time.
We can...
Yeah.
We will discuss
addiction let's do that
another time.
That'd be sweet.
It is an argument for restricting extreme porn, but I don't think that extreme porn encourages porn addiction. I would say that there's probably a lot of people who claim to be addicted to porn but only watch the vanilla, as you said, the very normal sex acts of just penetration.
The pattern they did describe one that they got more extreme and more extreme. It's conceivable that someone's just addicted to really vanilla porn.
There's obviously also the...
I like Neapolitan.
That's for another discussion. Anyway, let's go back onto the article.
Yeah.
So it goes on to say that the restrictions on the porn are that they include rules about penetration by objects associated with violence. So I've read about a couple of comments on this on Reddit, that it's like putting a gun into someone's vagina or something like that.
I feel like these
Rape
are things
porn,
more...
that sort of stuff.
Well, I've not seen as much of this on gay porn. So yeah, objects of violence, alright, at the same time, it's still fantasy, it's still sex.
And the same coin, rape porn as well.
I've watched a lot of male on male stuff is a bit rapey. We've got these I think having repression of not being allowed our desires for the males, and we've just got this thing about like.
So how do you feel about kind of
and just having
curtailing
him.
that and saying?
Do
No,
I think
you
that's
shouldn't-
encouraging
you
my
shouldn't
sex,
watch.
my behaviour? No, not. I'd say I have a healthy, or I have in the past had a healthy taste for porn, and all it's ever done is hurt me. It's never encouraged. In fact, it's done the opposite. Like those porn addicts, it was a product of me being separated from other people. So it was going to
desensitize them.
Yeah. Well, no. That's not what I'd say. I'd say it was the product of me being separated so much from other people and life that actually I was behind such a massive barrier to normal people or just life anyway. The question never arose whether I'd be a danger to people. The reason I was with the porn was because I wasn't with other people. I think this whole argument about, for most men, if it is mainly
So that's
men,
why you kind of turned to porn.
yeah, but then I think if you get integrated back into the whole world again, I think for most people they'll get integrated into just a normal sexuality. I think the two are very different from each other.
And I think that's an interesting question as well to ask why people turn to porn, why people go to porn for entertainment or to relieve something.
Because it might highlight if there is such a deep connection between how you are in reality with other people. I actually think there's more of a connection with someone being a sadistic, vicious person in business that they're going to be sadistic and vicious in the bedroom. That is far more connected to the reality they're living out than somebody who comes far away from reality, so far away that they have to watch it in their own room by themselves on a computer screen.
I think that there's a very similar question is the question of violent video games and whether that encourages children to
thrash metal as well.
Yeah.
All Slipknot and all this stuff that people go, oh my god, this is going to corrupt our youth. No, generally the youth that go to it, look how meek they are. These are the people that go to this stuff because they need some way of experiencing some platform, some aggression. The very point is that when they actually get into the real world, human voices wake them and they drown, in the words of T.S. Eliot. They literally, that's not them in the real world. That's why they come to fantasy. So the notion that there is this deep connection between the two, it's certainly not that one's going to affect into the real world. It's that the real world is scaring them enough to put them into this. If the real world gave them a chance, they'd probably be quite meek and nice. Or at least not fucking these monsters.
There were a few examples.
I'm being a bit
There
extreme.
were a few, obviously, some news stories that almost vilified violent video games and said how some serial killers were encouraged by the games to go out and shoot up a school or a mall in America. I think maybe they did have an effect. Maybe sometimes those violent video games do have an effect. I think they're few and far between, though, in the grand scheme of things. There's millions of people that play games like Grand Theft Auto, and there aren't millions of people that play those games that also go out and shoot up a school. I don't think we've ever had someone that's raped someone else has then said it was because of the porn.
Question. What are the rules on
Encouraging.
burping porn?
Well, that's just gross. I suppose it's out there.
I bet it is.
I
Farting is. I don't
yeah.
know what I feel about farting.
Gross.
Like, I wouldn't go so far as farting, but I'd like smelling porn. Because, that's all part...
Smelling.
That's all part, I'm talking about the disconnect between porn and real life. You can maybe use it to, if you're not getting any real life for a little bit, you can be like, real life is like this, and there's smells in real life. So, if you're not too distant from real life, then you might want get a bit of the, the nasal, or is that the right... What's the sensory word, the posh sensory adjective for the smelling capacity?
I haven't a clue.
I don't either.
That is almost getting on to our discussion of spitting.
Oh, yeah. Well, what about spitting? Is that deemed as too aggressive to be on porn?
I just find it gross, personally.
Well, we've had a long discussion about this.
Yeah.
So, we're living in a world where what people are getting up to behind closed doors, it's sometimes going to be so weird and kinky, and we're saying that can't also be available to watch. That just seems ridiculous.
I think one thing I'm interested in is that they mention that any sexual act that's deemed obscene under the Obscene Publications Act of 1959 would be banned. I'm quite interested in what this Obscene Publications Act actually includes.
I mean, it's using the word obscene, and alarm bells get ringing whenever that word's been used. I mean, that word's been used to ban books. Lolita, I think, in America, was banned, and that is just an amazing piece of literature. Like, okay, the subject matter might be uncomfortable, but my God, like, this stuff goes on, and the fact that they have to like prove some artistic merit. Well, like, even why? There's enough merit of just facing up to what the world is. I admit that there are some porns that potentially feed into unhealthy ways of viewing the world, but I think these are probably more products of what's going wrong with us rather than the other way around, that they're helping to cause it. I mean, I'm not a big fan of like midget or racial fetishes, just because, I think I've heard of stories of people having, like, say, midget fetishes, and how they talk about people who, this is a person, and this is who they are.
Is midget the correct
I'm
terminology?
Sorry, I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know myself.
I'm sorry. No, it might be dwarf, and I'm sorry if I have
I think
not
that
used the right term. But I mean, my intentions are hopefully kind, at least. That not that you need kindness or pity, but I do find it distasteful, because if you can talk about one human being like that, like they're just an object to you, rather than that I mean, dirty, like, I like dirty, but it's got to be based on that psychological connection between two human beings. And if they're just an object and you're fascinated by the fact that they're small and you're making it all about that bothers me. So porn that's all about that, when I see it, I think, how is this going to make them feel when they see a whole page devoted to them just being used as an object? Now, I'm not saying that people in real life don't have that psychological thing that they're like, oh, they're really small and there's this power thing.
Well, they must do, or the porn wouldn't exist.
But when the porn's out there, it does just make them into these objects, these commodities. And that's just based on something that is, is part of who they are. And it's part of their life, and it's part of their condition of being who they are. Just like my condition is having black hair, having white skin, all these things that define my place in the world. And that becomes dear to me, so that will become dear to them. And to just use it as a commodity, that pisses me off. That I'm not saying that it should be banned, but it pisses me off when people talk about them like they're a commodity, and it's like they've never even thought about that they might be hurting someone's feelings.
I think a lot
at a deep level.
Wouldn't you say that a lot of pornography is like that, though, in the sense that they don't really give any actor a personality or a character? Obviously, they might give them basic characters like a policeman or something like that, but they never really give them any form of depth, and it's just all about the sex, so it always just objectifies them anyway.
That's true, but
obviously when you fetishize something like someone's height, and if they do have a condition where it does affect their height, and then it just commodifies that and objectifies that, then that's an issue. Or their race.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Of course, porn is objectifying.
But that's just what it does.
But sex can be objectifying, and I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but it's just when it's encouraging that at such a level of extraction. Sex can be objectifying, but that can be part of the psychological thrill. But when it's literally a whole industry with money and all this economic sort of interest over like something as alienating, something as inhuman as just seeing it on a computer screen, they must feel that for a lot of people that's the only access they have to them. So for other people, when they're objectified, I mean, that's fine, but they're just they're objectified in a way that, say, they like to wear latex, but that's just an item of clothing. But this is actually an essential part of this person's whole experience. That is the only contact some people are having with their experience of being a smaller person is the experience of them just being a commodity online, and that's not cool.
So would you ban?
Banning now.
Would you ban
different.
Something as general as what I'll call disability porn?
Part of me is.
Or are you just uncomfortable with it?
I am uncomfortable. I don't think banning though gets to the root of it, because I've heard lads talking about this sort of stuff. Like, I've come across people talking in terms of the sex they've had with maybe disability, like, you know, in the same way, and I've found it, I don't even want to say offensive, I don't use the word offensive, but I just find it ignoble, cruel, and rather unthinking and inhuman. I don't like the word offensive does not carry any weight to me, but the word inhuman does, and I think it's inhuman. So that was a big kind of stray off onto disabilities.
It was, but we always do
and
that.
we don't know if is that banned as obscene as well. I mean, it's difficult.
It's very difficult
I mean,
to say,
how the
really.
hell can you ban that as obscene? Because that's like, some people would be like, that's against my human right. Like, I mean,
it's discrimination, because
there's
then
no way they could do that. Because if they did that, they could get rid of gay porn. You know, what would
well,
you...
it would essentially, if they banned disability porn, it would essentially stop anyone with a disability having a career in the porn industry in the UK.
So there's the practical element. There's also, what message does that send out? I mean, like, you know, how do you define it? Is it when a disability person being used? Then you have to define what being used is, and that, you know...
Well, do you want me to read a bit of the
yes, please. That'll give us some grounding, then we can come up with some final opinions.
The Obscene Publications Act. There's a section of it on the government website that is a test of obscenity. It's quite short, really, for something.
Oh well, some
as
civil
big as a
servants,
test.
like, you know,
So for the purposes,
very hard to condense all of humanity down.
For this is part one. For the purposes of this act, an article should be deemed to be obscene if its effect, or where the article comprises two or more distinct items, the effect of any one of its items is, if taken as a whole, such as to tend to deprave and corrupt persons who are likely, having regard to all relevant circumstances, to read, see or hear the matter contained or embodied in it. So what I take from that is that it's obscene if it tends to deprave or corrupt a person.
Yeah, okay.
As vague as that.
Great, okay. So we're not already corrupted. I mean, what are the chances of that? I mean, it does impress me that this is even being considered.
It's a serious matter of both privacy, censorship, but it's a serious issue that could be passed through, and it could be passed through with ease.
I do get
agreed upon.
Yeah, slide it on through.
Yeah.
Lube it up, slide it in.
It could be lubed up and slid into both the House of Lords and House of Commons very easily and passed through as law.
God.
Very easily as well, because one theory is that people won't disagree with it on the basis that it might be embarrassing to disagree with saying that porn should be free. And
practically, I mean, how is this going to be legislated? I really, ideally, think it probably would be a better world if we could all get the sex we wanted and we never really, like, porn wasn't really a thing. I just can't. This is like incredible to me, though. I don't wish that we weren't depraved. I mean, go back to Oscar Wilde's time in Dorian Gray, like, all the stuff. I think I've quoted Dorian Gray twice now in these podcasts, but all the things he was getting up to. What do you think he was getting up to, or what do you think Lord Byron? I don't think sexual depravity isn't new. For them to be making laws to try to curtail seemingly sexual depravity. Who are they to do that? That'd be my issue. Who are you to claim the words depravity or corruption? I mean, how dare you? So is all the greed and senseless lack of care in people, all the inhuman forms of ways we entertain ourselves, we just, like, completely blot our lives out and, like, watch a dirge of rubbish on TV, is that not a form of corruption? I'd say it was, and yet somehow this is something that they can call corruption and is condemnable. That annoys me.
Let's get to the last bit of the article.
Okay. I mean, I think you think it's probably goes against pragmatism and common sense and is a bit silly, but I'm deeply annoyed that anybody that has probably not once in their life dived to the depths of their own morality can start dictating on corruption and depravity. Like, when really, who knows what they get up to in there, or what they might want to get up to. What rent boys they
are a lot of politicians that have been caught out for child pornography and, sex acts with rent boys
Yeah.
and
Which
prostitution.
I don't think that's a bad thing, but if they're telling us what we can do...
That's it. And there's
the
huge
child
issue
one,
there.
fuck that.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's obviously one thing that always and will be banned and should be banned and illegalised.
I mean, that's a
which is
ridiculously...
child porn, but
I mean, if you ever want to talk
That's
about
because
paedophilia, that's a really complicated... But I mean, as far as the promulgation of that as a commodity,
no,
that's wrong.
It's dangerous.
Fucking,
It can lead to death of children.
That is a whole other issue.
With this new legislation that might come into place, any online video service, whether it be pirating videos and showing them for free or not, if they're found to be showing extreme obscene porn, they can be taken down.
As depraving or encouraging depravity.
If it's under the Obscene Act or anything like that, those websites can be taken down from British use. So on any UK internet service provider, they will ban those websites. So watching porn for free or finding porn websites might become a little bit more difficult following this legislation being passed, which I think this legislation will be passed. So good luck to everyone finding porn in the UK. What shocks me is that this isn't discussed more. People aren't aware of this. I mean, this is one article. People on Reddit are aware of this because they are very...
Well,
don't interrupt me.
Sorry.
They're very concerned about privacy.
Well,
and
I think
censorship.
some of them should be.
And censorship. Obviously, this is a big issue on Reddit, but I think elsewhere, on Twitter, media corporations, on TV, it's not covered. And it should be, because this is an issue of censorship.
Massive issue.
Modern
Personal
day
freedom.
Censorship.
The moralising of a government.
It's scary that this isn't covered more. So anyway, why are they doing this? It says a representative will be checking through... A representative of the BBFC. They will be checking through every single video and all this sort of stuff.
Just one guy.
Well, yeah. Enjoy.
Or one girl. 2 cups.
Lovely. Well, I think that will certainly be considered obscene. But what isn't it scary as well that if there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the BBFC deeming what's of obscene and corruptible,
can I get a job there? Can I? I mean,
your job is to view porn.
If this provides me with a job, view porn and moralise. Like, those are the 2 things I've been doing since university. That's what a philosophy degree is. Watch porn, moralise.
It's scary, though, that a few people could deem whether something is obscene or not and determine whether a pornography site could be taken down or not.
They should be allowed to, as a distinct thing from the fact that they're doing it.
And so, finally, going on to why... I know I've taken a while to get there, but a Department for Media, Culture and Sport spokesman said the BBFC is not being asked to police the internet, although they will be. The focus of this legislation is to protect children with the same safeguards online as they have offline. The BBFC is already working positively with adult pornography sites to ensure the protections in this bill will achieve this objective. Essentially, it is... save the children. Think of the children. How ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think. We're talking about children here. I don't think many children are going to want or seek access to porn.
What defines a child?
Below the age of...
Because, I mean, like, lads...
14, 13?
Well, yeah, that's one, like, boys of 13, in my experience, like, a lot, like, start accessing porn around that age.
They do, and I don't
know just about boys, girls as well.
I wouldn't consider them boys, girls of 13 and above. I wouldn't consider them to be children anymore, in the same sense. I think they're pre-teens and that sort of adolescence, puberty.
Yeah.
So, of course, you're going to access...
And the law still defines them as, well, clearly...
They, obviously, under 18s, essentially, are children.
So you can have whatever depraved sex you want with a partner of a similar age if you're 16, you just can't watch it.
You can't watch it, you can't have it online, because you have to think of children of a very young age somehow accessing that. I just don't think that's the real issue.
No, I think
it
parenting,
just seems like a cover-up.
Parenting is a... But then again, you know, that you don't want to say that the kids who will inevitably, some of them have bad parents and come from maybe a background that's not their fault. You don't want to say, oh, they can be exposed to anything just because the parents aren't good. You don't want to say, oh yeah, so it's cool that they've seen this like more than 4 fingers.
No, I think
oh my god, they're safe if they've only seen 2 fingers.
But more
3,
than 4,
pushing it. 4.
Well, more than, yeah, the 4-finger rule. If they see that, it's all over. These children are no longer children. They are corrupt. They are corrupt and depraved,
fallen individuals.
How ridiculous!
I blame, Eve.
Yeah, Eve and Adam.
Mainly
Eve,
Adam, actually.
That bitch for eating the apple.
I don't see...
I can't see many children of that age being able to get access unless they have quite a... I'm not sure what sort
Child Mr. Robot.
Unless they have a mind that thinks, ooh, wouldn't it be cool to watch a woman have 4 fingers put into their vagina? I think definitely... There are children, I think children from the age of 8 and above...
How is that going
or even 6 and above do get an idea of, breasts and
how is that
sex
going
and that
to
sort of stuff. But
corrupt them more? I think if you've been sexualised at an early age, isn't that the problem?
Well, what I wouldn't like personally is a child accessing any porn. But then that would suggest that just all porn should be banned.
Yeah.
There is an argument that pornographic websites are too accessible for children.
Fine. Okay, well there's the issue then.
Because you can just click, yes, I'm over 18,
yeah,
and there you go.
So fine, there's the issue. That sorts it. Why is that? I mean...
But then we go on to another issue of how do we control that? And their suggestion, and probably the best suggestion there is to have those ID checks.
Yeah.
But then...
That's the information.
Then we go on...
Because I was just going to give it an analogy. It's like nightclubs. So just because 17-year-olds are somehow getting in, you don't curtail the amount of alcohol or the different alcohols you're selling. What you do is make it harder for the 17, 16, whatever-year-olds to get
in. Yeah.
You don't change your practice. So if the internet was like that, but you're going to tell me why it's not.
The issue is of giving your personal information like an ID, passport, whatever it is, onto these websites and logging it in. And this is the biggest criticism of this digital economy bill, which they're calling it. Economy, I don't know why.
Economy word in there.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that legitimises any politics these days. Is it economical? Is it something to do with the economy? This is moralising, and they've still got to chuck the word economy.
But if we want to look at it economically, I don't think it's good for the economy because you're stopping porn industries from making a profit from potentially extreme
Well, the disgusting thing is that these people's brains only work on an economic quantity weighing up basis, and they have the gall to claim any control over our morality by using words like depraved and obscene. Don't you dare bring those words ever again to my door when all you've ever done for the past 20, 30 years is economise things. You have no claim to morality, and most people in the public sphere don't. So they should stay well out of morality.
The reason why people are worried of putting their information online in this manner to access the porn websites is, of course, in the digital age, hacking and people being able to access your personal information, but also your viewing habits. And not only hackers, but the government itself, they are able to...
I'm really lazy with my internet history anyway. It's all there.
Yeah, right now you're okay.
Not
because on internet service providers currently, they're not required to keep that internet search history for long. Now, with this other charter that's probably going to be passed, the Snoopers Charter, it's going to require internet service providers to keep your data for up to a year. And that's kind of scary as well with privacy, that we have zero privacy anymore. And this is in the UK only. Apparently the UK is
Yeah, the Big
worst
Brother
for
state
privacy.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Apparently we have
The nanny state.
sort of for every 14 people we have like one CCTV camera. I think that might be a statistic.
It's scary.
I mean that's an obvious response though, Stu. It's scary. Like the other cliched response to that is, well, if you've got nothing to hide, ...
The question is though, is that even though I have nothing to hide, maybe in the future there might be some things that they deem illegal that aren't illegal right now.
You might want to erase these podcasts.
Yeah. Just for my personal dignity.
Yeah. To disassociate yourself with me. No, he was never my brother.
Yeah, I refuse to admit it. Yeah, that is a cliche by saying it's scary, but I think it's scary because they have a lot of access on you, and they could skew all that information in a way that could potentially they could bribe you. But
things like this has never bothered me because you know what I've just
blackmail.
said. What I've just said about them being economizers, I've no fear about their deep evil human motivations. I think the actual problem with them is that they're like robots. So the only problem with them having your information would be is if somehow you are unconventional in a way that's going to prohibit you from getting a job in the future. Like, I don't have this conspiratorial mindset that most people are going to be bribed. I don't think it should be framed like that because I think that's detracting from the actual issue that if they've got your information or if certain things are up, then it's more likely in the big mechanical society we live in to get you either prosecuted via the mechanical process or make you lose a job. That's my issue. I don't think any one person, individual is going to like an espionage sort of spy thriller going to bribe you.
No, that's
that
not.
would be exciting. That would be great.
I'm not saying the one person. I am saying
you're saying the machine,
yeah.
and
I'm saying they could bribe you.
But you have to be so careful in like. But that can happen with anything. You could literally, you could do an off-color tweet to say like my best Indian mate, like Sana. I could do an off-color tweet to him, just something completely private, and that could lose me a job because I could get deemed as a vicious racist, even though it's to my best mate.
Yeah, so
who I love and adore more than
I think those issues,
any human beyond. Like so,
I think those issues could be escalated by these sort of acts and bills and charters.
But I think my issue with not being that bothered about is I think we can lose our public places so easily anyway. I don't think it matters. They might as well have it all because they can call us evil and wicked by just the fact that they can chuck the word racist at you for absolutely nothing. So like they might as well just have my whole fucking porn history as well because they can destroy my life with the smallest drop of a hat. So like have my porn history as well.
Most people are usually safe with what they say online or what they do online, so these are the things that could hurt you because you're safe with the rest of the things that you say online.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree. I don't know what, like the porn stuff, I think we're too prudish in our machine-like things of going about things. I think more dangerous is things like people accusing you of being a bigot or, things that are actually to do with you having an opinion. I think your dirty laundry, too many people who are very inhuman and machine-like are actually have far more dirty laundry because they like to keep things hidden and they're probably repressed and they get dirtier the more repressed they get. And so I actually believe that the system being in their favour, that actually this stuff for normal people isn't going to matter because the people who are big part of this system anyway, it's in their interest to not really care too much about condemning people for their sexual depravities. So I really don't care. I have my porn history. Like, I'll tell you about it. I'll tell everyone. I really don't care.
But the final argument could be that it could escalate into something else. If they've successfully passed that through, the question is, what next? What else could they do to spy on us, to get our information?
Once again, I think our culture is already so much in control of, like, we've already gotten to the post or to the position where you don't dare say, like, just general, capricious and selfish and chaotic, silly human opinions. You don't dare, like, voice that sort of stuff. So we're already there. I don't think there's anything more they can take away. Like, and I think that's a societal, cultural thing. So I'm not too fussed about actual...
I would agree there, but then one other issue
I'm probably being a bit silly.
One issue,
you're probably right.
One issue might be that what gives them the right? What gives them the right to have access to all our information.
Oh yeah, no, I mean on that front, like now we're talking practically about saving the children. And if like the right is coming from just practically, I mean, if they want my information so that they can save the children.
It's more than that, I would say.
Well, is it a few people like Theresa
I think that's a
May
couple.
who have probably, you know, never squirted in their life? You know, who just jealous of the,
Boris Johnson hasn't done more than 2 fingers.
Oh, well, have you seen the size of his fingers?
Yeah, no.
I have. They're like sausages.
Yeah. Well,
So 2 fingers suffice
he
for
doesn't
Boris.
need more than 2
Boris.
fingers.
So,
How can we round this off?
have they got the right? I mean, we started off from protecting the children. That's probably cool, but like all this other stuff that seems disconnected, that they're just trying to slip in moralising. I mean, that annoys me. I don't even want to talk about if they've got the right to or not in terms of a legal right. Which clearly they don't, because ever since the worship of John Stuart Mill and his harm principle, clearly governments don't have the right to dictate our personal tastes and morality. You know, like, you leave us to figure that sort of stuff out. As long as we're not harming you, then you chuff off. On a more basic level of, have you got the right? Are you in the right to tell me anything about morality? You who've just gone through a system of education and never worried particularly in your life about anything of much depth, no, chuff off.
And
Fuck off.
And I don't think that they have the right to have our information on any basis, including the basis that they're trying to protect the children, unless it's information regarding child pornography.
Some people would just take the hard line and just say, look, you protect the children, fine. If you're worried about children in bad homes, then sort the bloody society out, but don't come into this world that is to do with sexually active adults and try to curtail what we're doing.
This sort of
Parents,
information gathering.
sort your children out, and government, if you're looking after those children, then, you know, you sort that out.
This sort of information gathering isn't going to prevent or continue to prevent child pornography either. Paedophilia, which it seems as if that's what they're trying to curtail or stop anyway with these sort of acts and bills, especially with porn. It's not even saving the children.
I mean,
that
that
way.
bothers me as well. This notion, this perfect notion of a perfect childhood. When does sexuality start coming in? And what makes a healthy sexuality? Like, I don't know how healthy mine is, but am I a horrible human being for it? I hope not.
It's certainly not for the government to make that judgment.
No.
Certainly not them.
No.
Shall we round off with some comments from Reddit?
I think that would be good. Just a last little point from me. Like this, perfectly feeds into. I'm currently doing an essay on different types of freedom. It's amazing. I've actually in my essay really sided on the notion that freedom we should be guided to freedom by the wise. Freedom is a state of being. It's a beautiful state of being. And that the wise should guide us to it. That it's not as simple as that. And I don't think the wise are anywhere in politics or ever could be in a society as vast as ours, could be anywhere near politics. And that's cool, I admit that. Not when they start moralising and pretending to be wise, though. That's when it gets, no. But it is amazing, when we've actually had a practical political discussion, clearly I have sided right on the other side that, leave us well alone. But, I was just saying that when I was talking about my essay. I was saying that the political should be John Stuart Mill. It should be, leave us alone unless we're harming other people. At the same time, I don't think there isn't a space for morality and moralising and discussing who we are in terms of relation to sexuality. I just don't think it's on the level of politics.
No, and not by the politicians we currently have either.
Well, no. Unless, we could put, Bernie Sanders as Jeremy Corbyn, Donald Trump, all these, chaotic individuals, the craze. Oh, God, that will not harbour any support if anyone listens.
That would be a very interesting parliament if we had Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, and Jeremy Corbyn.
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson's a bit
so
of a
Trump
character.
and Johnson,
Nigel Farage, Jesus Christ.
And then we can have our...
That
but
would
you know
be
what? I think they
very interesting cabinet.
They'd have to They
Stranger things have happened.
Anyway, so yeah, let's sum it up with some Reddit comments.
This is just kind of seeing how other people are taking it and how people are reacting to it and how they appreciate it.
I think they're taking it with more than 4 fingers, to be honest.
They're really fisting it in. So the top comment, porn is the scapegoat. When infrastructure is set, they can start blocking whatever they want.
Such restrictions include the 4-finger rule, for instance, which limits the number of digits that can be placed into an orifice while on video. 3 fingers is okay. 4 is disgusting.
The next one, I predict actual petabytes of very weird porn is going to be downloaded onto many British hard drives in anticipation of this bill.
Such resonance in your final syllable whenever you sort of read these sort of things. It's brilliant. Because in the Queen's country, the only people allowed to be perverts are the royals and the politicians.
They also ban, so he's quoting, they also ban any sexual act deemed obscene under the Obscene Publication Act, which was passed in 1959. 1959, the good old days. Let's keep pretending like they knew what they were doing.
Little bit of an easy dig, that one. I'd like to think we avoided that a little bit, but
there's the comment which follows on. Would that mean that gay porn and interracial porn is off limits? Pretty sure that stuff wasn't too popular in 1959.
You know, actually, when you do say things are so bad and taboo, actually that's when people really kind of actually like it a lot. I'm sure interracial porn back then was far more charged. Who the hell are you to moralise on these things when generally you are the people who behind closed doors can't deal with your own self, so you're actually indulging in it, you know? Knobheads.
Anal intercourse is considered obscene. Yeah, obscenely awesome!
Yeah!
But I poop from there.
The UK is deteriorating quite faster than I thought it would. Is Britain trying to be more socially conservative than America? Why is this such an issue over here? Old people. That was one response. Specifically, Theresa May, the puritanical, unelected Harridan with a huge lady boner for unwarranted surveillance. Lady boner.
She does seem to have a lady boner for a minority.
That's obscene. Get rid of it.
Yeah, obscene. Lady boners, obscene. Banning female ejaculation, but not male ejaculation, is a bit sexist, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, what is their issue with female ejaculation? I mean, this is the thing, like, okay, some of them I can go, right, I hate the fact that you're moralising, fine, I kind of agree that, say, like, if you're shoving, like, a gun up someone, yeah, I can sort of see why you're saying that might be depraved. Like, female ejaculation, what? Do
you want to know why?
Go for it.
The reason why is because it's considered urination.
That has always been a mystery to me. Like, what is that substance? Apparently it's piss.
I don't think it is piss, but it's under the legislation. It's considered urination.
What's wrong with urination? Okay, fine. What's wrong with urination?
I don't know.
Water sports.
It counts as urination. Therefore, us innocent little Brits are protected for another day.
Thank God.
Just excuse me whilst I actually go urinate, though. However, I must not look. According to the above law, it is quite vulgar.
No, I believe the word was depraved. Or corrupt. Different words. Like,
you're
fine.
Pissing, you corrupt human being. The British are coming! The British are coming!
That's good. I approve.
Pig sex is allowed, hopefully. Says David Cameron. This is the final fucking straw. I've had it with this shithole. I thought the dramatic welfare cuts that led to the UN sending an envoy over to make sure we weren't abusing human rights was close enough. But this tastes the biscuit. Dunks it in my tea and spits it in my face.
Oh, that's too depraved.
Now what's a pervert like myself going to do during the cold winter months?
That's so good.
First the Brexit, now the Sexit.
Soon the only sex acts the English will be allowed to see is the state fucking people. Next one. What is going on over there? Sincere question. Brexit?
widespread spying by the government to see every website you go to, and even more limitations on your porn.
Okay, and the final comment is, I think this is interesting. If you disagree to any extent...
I've never disagreed weekly about anything in my life.
No, well, good for you, Sam. There are ways you can take action.
Can you even disagree with something weekly? What is that? Why bother?
You can be slightly apathetic.
Why bother disagreeing? Fuck that. Like, just don't care.
I'm trying to reach out
Alright.
to audiences that might
be, mildly depressed?
mildly upset about this, but they should be more upset about it, because I think it's an issue. It's an issue.
You depraved individual for not being, really upset.
Yeah, I think. Well, it's an issue
Fuck you with your mild.
It's an issue that can span off from porn and affect people in other areas of life. If you disagree with it and you want to take action, there are ways to do it.
No, but even more important, who doesn't like squirting?
Will you stop interrupting? I know you like squirting, but I'd like to at least finish
as
my
a gay
sentence.
man.
So, as a gay man, you like the squirting of
I love
vaginas.
it. I don't know why, but mainly in lesbian porn.
What the hell?
In the context of lesbian porn, love
I
it.
find that so strange. But
So do I. We can do an episode on that.
if you want to take action against this issue, then you can write to your MP or other representatives, urging them to vote and speak out against the bill. You can sign petitions that are going around. I'll put links in the description. Join or donate to the Open Rights Group and or Privacy International. Well, Sam, if you want to see your squirting, contact your local representative. And that goes for anyone out there listening. Hardly any, probably, but if there's anyone listening...
Is there anyone out there?
You can go and contact your representative. Thanks for listening.
No. Thank you for the squirting.
Thanks for listening. Listening.